but I don't know if the jury can see with this light, it's a little bit bright. But there is a apparent blood streak, spatter right here. I don't know if you can see that. You can step down and see that. Or you saw it was up there.
Just, yeah.
Okay. So this is kind of the middle of the door. There's a little bit of spatter. And the door, again, so the knob is on the left-hand side. So to open the door, it's like, you gotta go like that and push the door this way. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're walking into the apartment, there's some blood spatter about halfway up here. Is that correct?
I believe so. I have to look at the photograph.
And then State's Exhibit number 96. That's kind of standing right next to the door and looking down. So you can see the entryway here, right?
Yes.
Do you see any blood? Okay.
Yes.
And then also, I think, actually, I should have done this one first. I think 85, I believe, is a closer up shot of what we have in State's Exhibit 95. So that little spatter here is, I believe, this spatter here in 85. And then we've got a separate spatter right here in 96. But then if you look to the left, there's also some potential blood. And that's what's previously noted as State's Exhibit number 84. Do you recall that in your investigation?
I do remember that.
Okay. So, I mean, if you look at this, I mean, there's some yellowish green stuff. So is that body viscera? Is that snot? Is that something else? I mean, you don't know. Scientific testing wasn't done to determine whose blood this would be or if this was even blood, right?
Right, it's hard to tell.
That's, again, that's just inside the doorway. Like literally, like just inches inside the doorway.
Right.
Okay. And then State's Exhibit number 97. This is the door frame looking directly down from the door frame.
Yes.
Okay. And again, there's blood pooling, and this is obviously photographed before the victim's covered or he's uncovered to take the photographs, but before he's taken the scene. Okay. And we can see that the blood pooling, it may be spread because it is a blood pool, but it's not anywhere inside the door frame.
Correct.
Is it also standard practice for diagrams to be made, just for clarity of where exhibits are found? Because obviously in a photograph, it takes a snapshot within the limited degree of range. There's a pretty common jail, also have diagrams done to demonstrate where everything is found.
It's another tool crime scene investigators use to mark where evidence is collected.
And you didn't personally make these diagrams, you didn't know that CSI, is that correct?
Correct. CSI takes care of all that, the diagrams and marking of where evidence was collected.
I'm going to approach Amherst with a sketch. I'm going to show you where I marked the states in 98 and 99. You take a look at these two certain exhibits. 99 is 3 pages. It's only those are those are the diagrams. In fact, the diagrams from the states.
They are.
States 99, that's the diagram itself, and have a legend or a key to tell you what numbers stand for.
Correct.
This time state with tenure, well, I have to defense, but with tenure, offered evidence, states of 98 and 99.
Judge, we reviewed it.
Commissioner Carver. Okay. So, we're going to start with 98, just based on numerical order. Just because the window's translucent, it's a little hard to see maybe photographs, but the 3 separate bullet holes in the window are marked on this picture to see and understand where they're located. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so again, just so we're oriented, this is like Mason's apartment, the door's like right here, and the window's right here, and then the other apartment would be down the hallway.
Correct.
And then states number 99. I think, so the jury's previously seen, just like the blueprint for the apartment, this is slightly reversed, but these are typically not drawn to scale, correct?
Correct.
So they'll include measurements. You'll know that this wall is 11 feet long and 3 inches, and this one's 8 foot and 10 inches. But if you compare them, it may be slightly off in terms of scale. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, but we can see from the legend, for example, that item 1 is a spent bullet fragment, sidewalk to the west of apartment 312. So that's that spent fragment we talked about earlier, photograph. But specifically the shell casing, and 4 shell casings, items 2, 3, and 4. jury can look at this, item 3, item 4. So, you know, they can see photographs that show what it looks like, and this tells them where it was in relation to everything else.
Correct.
And so, an officer previously testified that the casings kind of ended up in this general area, kind of area, dining room area, right around here. And looking at E2, E3, E4, that's generally pretty accurate. Do you agree?
I would say so, yes.
So, did you personally interview James Beeman in this case?
James Beeman? No.
Did you personally interview Howard Patel in this case?
I believe so.
What was it, detective class? Would that be common for other detectives to assist both on scene and at HQ?
The more people are involved, we often get help from other investigators to help out with whether interviewing or helping out with the investigation.
And so it would be common to have, for example, other detectives on scene, maybe talk to people just in the neighborhood and see if they had anything that were eyewitnesses, and we do a bigger interview down at the police station. That'd be normal practice, right?
Correct.
So in this case, you do in fact interview a couple people at the police station, is that correct? Some eyewitnesses?
Yes.
And just a moment, let me get my spot here, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Could I ask a question?
Sure.
When you refer to James Beeman, talking about senior?
Yes, correct. The father of Trevor.
I did interview him.
Okay. You talked to him at some point?
Yes.
Did Detective Walter Penny also conduct
Yes, you conducted a thorough investigation with an interview with him. I'm sorry.
Okay, so just to clarify, because I don't want to make sure, I'm sure I understand you, I think what you're saying is like, in the course of the investigation, you would have maybe kept Mr. James Beeman up to date on what you were doing, how things were going.
Yes.
So like a formal evidentiary interview, Detective Penny would have done that.
Correct.
Okay, all right, sorry, that's my fault, I confused you, I apologize. So, you're on scene, you see, once we, is there anything else you do while you're on scene that day, since you fit in terms of your investigation in this case?
I often coordinate with officers and CSI. May ask them to do certain things. You know, people need to be transported or other tasks need to be done. Coordinate with witnesses. Not all witnesses need to be transported to headquarters. Something like this, it's Christmas Day. We try to accommodate families, traumatic events such as these. So that would be another thing. I may interview people on scene to avoid having them being transported to our offices.
Okay. In terms of substantive investigative findings, did you do anything else that day? Did you interview people on scene?
I believe I interviewed a few people that were, again, the person didn't directly see what actually happened, but might have heard something. I would interview that person on scene versus bringing them all the way downtown.
And you might notate that something like your incident detail report, or key card, like you had some Mason Lubitz or something like that?
Yes.
So obviously, we're talking about this shooting that happened. In terms of your follow-up investigation to determine whether a crime occurred, do you review all the state terms in a state in this case?
Yes.
And case?
There was.
And did you review the results of that autopsy?
No, I did.
And at any point did you guys return to the scene, or did officers return to the scene for additional investigation of the scene?
I remember, I believe there was a additional call that came out in a couple of days, and some officers might have gone back to recover property.
And what was that call in regards to?
Sorry?
What was that call in regards to? Was it a particular vehicle or a particular?
I believe there was a vehicle that was overdue, some type of truck that had been rented out and it was not returned. The owners of the vehicle wanted that vehicle back. They located and called the police to take possession of that vehicle.
And so, did you ultimately find that U-Haul vehicle was affiliated with Mr. Lubitz?
I believe it had been rented out to him.
And obviously CSI processed that vehicle, but in terms of your investigation, it didn't provide any other leads as to what may have happened in this case. Is that correct?
No.
So in terms of additional investigation beyond that, was there physical evidence that was submitted to the crime lab in this case?
Very likely, the ballistics and whatever evidence was available. I would have to look at the report to see what was submitted, but off the top of my head, it would have been the ballistics.
Okay. And while you were researching this case, did you find out that there was some history between the two individuals in this case, specifically the defendant, Mr. Mason Lubitz, and the deceased, Mr. Trevor Lehman? I'm not going into the content of the truth of the matter, that's just simply the course of investigation. It's also, I believe, based on opening statement, all testimony thus far, and it's just part of the investigation.
Perhaps, I'm not saying it's not relevant, I'm saying that do this with us, seriously, because he's just a mouthpiece to report what he's like with and learn from the people for process there.
As part of your investigation, you researched the involved parties.
Yes.
If parties have this department, is that going to be recorded in your system?
Yes.
Did you in fact find contact between your system and Mason Lubitz from an October 4th of 2021 incident?
I did.
Without getting into specifics, I can't talk about what happened. Did you review that?
I did.
Okay. Did you factor that in your analysis of this case?
I did.
And specifically when you're reviewing this, again, that wasn't the specifics of what the incident was or what somebody may have said on video. Did that factor into your decision in this case?
It did.
Did in fact, within your system, did you have a statement from the defendant, in this case, Mason Lubitz, regarding that prior incident, a written statement?
Yes.
I'm going to mark this as 100. One.
Yes, it is.
And so specifically, I want to talk about where this came from. This was so you run the information, you find this case, and you really just pull this information from this place.
Correct.
And if you turn to the second page of this document, this is a handwritten statement.
It is.
And it's signed by Mason Lubitz as his statement.
It is.
The date of October 21st, 2021.
Yes.
Senior Defense Counsel states it's 100.
Remember what I was detective.
Yes, sir.
So I think what we're talking
I did not.
And you're in the murder section of the homicide, so you wouldn't have been a detective assigned to review that assault.
Correct.
Okay. And that would be Detective Kilpatrick.
Yes.
But you review those things as part of your decision ultimately what you want to do with this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because you have some discretion as a law enforcement, for example, on whether or not to determine a crime has been committed, whether or not to make an arrest, those kind of things. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as a detective, you also need to make decisions on cases. You can close cases out without even filing with the district attorney's office. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And all of the crime lab.
Yes, there's always a delay with the crime lab. It takes a while to get the results back.
Okay. So, to the extent possible, the evidence that is available to you when you're making that decision, this is one of the pieces you consider that prior assault and the investigation of that prior assault. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Wish to publish States 99 ditch? Or States 1, I apologize. So this is just kind of a standard template form that the 17 police department has created, kind of fill in the blanks form.
Yes.
Okay. And so we've got at the top, the victim, in this case, it'd be Mason Lubitz. And this is filled out by the person who's the victim, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then the person identified as the suspect is Trevor Beeman.
Yes.
And then just some general information on the relationship, whether it's going to be a family violence offense, or have they dated, did they used to date, or are they like family, father, son, brothers, or roommates, like that would make it family violence. We don't have that in this case, right?
Correct.
Because that's just kind of determining if a crime occurred, what kind of crime occurred.
That is correct.
And then any witnesses that may be available that maybe saw the incident occur will be identified here. So, for example, Mason identified Chrissy with phone number, and then witness potentially in this case.
Yes.
And then the second page is actually the statement written and signed off on by the defendant, Mr. Mason Lubitz. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read that, and then tell me if you think I'm reading this correctly. Yeah. Yeah. So Judge, if I may just clarify the record, if it's presently up to me, we agree with the motion, and we redacted it. I want to substitute, make sure it's a clear redaction, change to the marker, so I'm just going to read this and just substitute it, copy it later. Yes, okay. I apologize for a second. I'm going to read you what this says, reading some record. Trevor is on every drug and always high, and when he isn't high, he's drunk. He will always take anything and store it. He's always armed and dangerous. He's been ASAP. He's going to kill his wife, Maddie. She is already overdosed on drugs, POS, when truly sick father. In his father's words and roommate Eric, he needs to die. He's
Just, that was in quotations.
that in quotations, yes. He needs to die in quotations as if the father and roommate Eric said it. To clarify. He is lying to people and trying to get me killed. He turned my world upside down and thinks my life is his to take. He feels unstoppable. He is, in all caps, unstoppable, but not bulletproof. Be careful, in all caps. He doesn't want to go to jail. He smokes, snorts, sells meth, dab weed, Adderall, and perk. Is always in the apartment and has endangered my personal safety, my significance, and my dog. Cost me thousands of dollars. I would be so nice to him, so friendly, and he turned on me like a fucking psycho because I let his wife in after he put a gun in her mouth, and then his. Before he did that, he told me and Jenna he was going to. I didn't believe him until I saw that fucking screaming, holy shit. And that's the statement that you reviewed in addition to an audio statement that you gave to Detective Kilpatrick, and in addition to when Officer Brian Allison responded to the scene to take the report, we reviewed all of those, correct?
Yes.
And so, as a graduate of the academy, as a detective, you had training on what the laws of the state of Texas are, correct?
Yes.
And you don't necessarily have to have memorized. You can consult the penal code, you can consult prosecutors to get opinions and so on and so forth, right?
Right.
And ultimately, what you say is final. Either a judge or a jury is to decide what is a crime and what's not a crime beyond reason that, right?
That is right.
But your job as a detective is to evaluate the case and make a decision. Are there cases where you make a decision that either there is insufficient evidence, for example?
Yes.
And what do you do if there's a case with insufficient evidence?
Those cases will go under what is called a cold case until new evidence comes about, or you continue to search for that evidence that's lacking at the time.
And you're also able to make the conclusion that a crime has not occurred.
Correct.
And what do you typically do in that situation?
When we determine that an offense has not occurred, we will unfound a case, and the case really doesn't go anywhere.
And if you believe that a crime has occurred, what do you do within that point?
That is when we continue our investigation and file it with the DA's office.
And then hopefully beyond that, other than showing that you're to testify, it's kind of out of your hands. I guess in some cases you may be requested to do something else as follow-up. Like for example, hey, give me the results from the ballistics and give those to me. But otherwise, you typically done with your investigation.
Correct.
And did you in fact file charges in this case?
I did.
And what charges did you file?
Murder.
And are you also trained in self-defense law?
Yes.
Again, it's not your call, ultimately it's up to the jury to make a decision on what is or is not self-defense. But did you believe this was a case of self-defense?
Yeah, that's just he's not an expert in that.
Did you believe this was a case of self-defense?
I did not.
And why not?
If the basis for his opinion is hearsay.
statements to the officers, Allison Kilpatrick, Detective Kilpatrick, and then that written statement we just talked about.
Yes.
Did the result of those evaluations factor in his decision that there was more at play than simply a case of self-defense?
Yes.
And then, what do you believe happened in this case?
Context speculation.
Judge, I mean, he's on the witness list as an expert. He's an officer of the Central Police Department 18 years, detective of 11 years, 12 years. We believe that he should be allowed to say what his ultimate conclusion was, what he thinks happened as an alternative to self-defense. It's not something that's going to
If they're offering him as an expert, that we would like to have our 7 o'clock at this point, and I am entitled to the opportunity to question him as an expert outside the ranks of the jury to determine what his qualifications are and to determine what his expert is.
Maybe a couple more questions. Did you, in the course of the, sorry, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. In the overall course of your investigation, did you develop an opinion on the state of Mason Lubitz's mind as it relates to this case from the date of October 4th to the date of the killing on December 25th, 2021?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. He's not been offered as an expert in the state of mind. He's not a psychiatrist, psychologist, and does not have the capability to testify to that.
Do you understand the question?
I do, but at the same time, yeah, I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't tell you where his state of mind was. I can tell you testify to my observations.
Sure. What observations did you make?
I just, from the watching the interviews that was conducted by Detective Henning, just a lot of anger, a lot of emotion. That's my observations of Mr. Lubitz that day.
In reviewing the various statements, the 911 calls, did you form an opinion on his credibility in terms of what he said happened is actually what happened?
When we go back and look to see what's actually there, just based on what was recorded on 911, that's really all I can go by.
Did Mason Lubitz prior to December 25th ever express the desire to kill Trevor Lee?
Yes.
How's he was?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, so I want to talk about that first. Let's just go with the statement that we just made.
Gut reaction or substitute the new 100 for previous 100, withdrawing previous 100.
And no, thank you. Yeah, well, I guess because what the prosecutor is asking is you made the determination. Let's start with that first. You made the determination, or in your mind, you decided it was murder and it was not self-defense, not justified, right?
Correct.
Okay. But let's remind the jury like where you are when you make that determination. So, what is the standard of proof that you have to have to move the case forward to the DA's office?
I'm sorry?
When you talk with the prosecutor about your knowledge of the penal code and everything else, part of that is what is your standard of proof to arrest somebody, to charge somebody with a crime, to move them to the jail?
Probable cause.
Probable cause. Yes, sir. And you agree the probable cause, knowing what you know of the penal code, probable cause is the lowest burden in the judicial system.
It's the lowest burden.
All right, I see the questions from the chair, unless you're going to show some demonstration.
Well, I'm trying to demonstrate that. I'm trying to
you guys have issues.
understand. I apologize. But you understand it's the lowest burden in the system.
Sure.
And then the burden after that is preponderance of the evidence. Burden after that for CPS is clear and convincing evidence. And then beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest burden.
Correct.
So one of the things is when you make your determinations, you're making them at probable cause. If I have probable cause that it wasn't self-defense, then I'd send it over to the DA. Right?
I understand. Yes.
Right. The burden that the jurors are under is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is much, much higher.
Absolutely.
Okay. So they have to show, or they have to find that the state has disproven self-defense beyond all reasonable doubt in order, and you know that as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's talk about the, one of the things that the state went over with you is the October 4th assault, where Mason told the police that Trevor had assaulted him, had slapped him, hit him, and struck him in the face.
Yes.
Right? And this Trevor was never arrested.
I don't think so.
December 25th, since you reviewed all the statements, you know that one of the things that Jim Beeman said, that he heard Trevor say, he heard his son say, when he walked in, when he opened Mason's door and walked into it, is, you want to get slapped?
He made that comment.
She actually misstatement. The audio wasn't in there, and that's not how Mr. Dean phrased it. It was-
The jury recalled that testimony you're not allowed to cross.
Well, yes, sir. I understand what the prosecutor's saying, but we're talking about, you reviewed what Mr. Beeman said in his interview.
Yes.
And you want to get slapped again was one of the things Trevor, he's heard Trevor say.
He heard him say that. I can't tell you exactly at what point he heard that.
Okay, but if you reviewed it, you could come back here and tell us that he's talking to the detective and he goes, yeah, he said something like, you want to slap or you want to get slapped again?
Yes.
As he's going in. Now, if Trevor's dad is saying that Trevor said it, that means that Trevor did slap Mason. Right?
Right.
And never got arrested for it.
Right.
Nobody from SAPD went and did anything to Trevor based on it. Right?
I don't believe he was arrested for slapping another man.
Did you have it? Yeah. Well, not just slapping another man in the face, though. Because he did it while he was pointing the gun out. And he did it while he was waiting the gun down. So what does that say?
If that's a fact, that would be an aggravated assault.
But it's weird because it's like nobody believes Mason was telling the truth. It turns out he's telling the truth.
I don't know that.
According to Mr. Bean, who, and really, I mean, honestly, and they know this too, we all know that that did happen. Everybody in this room and this side all agree that Trevor slapped Mason in October. And that's the thing, right? So we all know that that happened and it's true. But then the problem is that the next thing that happened, okay, it's hard because he's hearing all of this stuff because nobody's helping him. When he's trying to go to you guys and say, look, this guy's hurting, and I'm scared. You know, and what they want to do is go, yeah, because he's saying, look, you guys need to be careful. He says that, he said it on the 911 call. You agree that that's part of the statement is he's telling you guys to be careful because he doesn't want to go back to jail. That Trevor doesn't, right?
That's what he's saying.
In the statement. It's clear that he's afraid, that Mason is afraid of Trevor. It's clear to you that he is. Reading this thing.
Not necessarily.
Well, it's clear to you that he has told everybody how many other times to compel him that he thinks that he believes that Trevor is a life and death man.
It appears that way.
And that's the problem. It's like he can be proven right. And then the next question I ask you is, so did he set a gun? Well, that's what he said. Well, he said. What Mason has said over and over again is pretty, look at this first line. Trevor is on every drug and always high. And when he is high and drunk, he will take anything and snort it. That's the first line of the statement, right? What was in Trevor's blood?
I don't know at this point. I would have to look at the autopsy report.
Okay, but you did review it.
Yeah, back in 2021.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's in that. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm showing the states exhibit, or states exhibit 58, which is the autopsy report that's been introduced. You're on that. What was it, Trevor's blood?
Looks like cocaine.
Yeah, what else?
Opiates. And there's some, I guess, alcohol, ethanol?
Yeah, so that's why it's still a good amount of alcohol.
Sure.
So when he said that in the statement, he said, Travis, on all these drugs and gets high. Based on that autopsy report, you would agree with that?
Based on that report, yes. At the time that was written, it's,
Well, you see, at the time it was written, Mason knew it. It took Trevor going into his apartment and threatening him and dying for you to realize that that was the case. Trevor gets high on drugs, he gets drunk, and Mason's scared of him. That's what they're telling the police. And even today, you're on the stand, and you're on the stand. So you say, well, I have probable cause to believe that it wasn't self-defense. Now, you reviewed Jim Beamon's thing, and he was an eyewitness.
yes.
Okay. Now, your statement that I have probable cause it wasn't self-defense, that's the direct opposite of what Jim Beaman told the detective, which was, the man, Mason, was probably within his rights.
Mischaracterization of the evidence in testimony.
We've had it, he testified. The eyewitness and the deceased father told one of your fellow detectives in the interview room, man's probably within his rights if a person comes into their house and threatens, right? You remember hearing that from Mr. Beaman?
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree that that's somebody who's watching it saying that he was probably within his rights to shoot. I don't know.
Not everyone knows the law to the letter. Like you said, it's up to the jury to make those decisions.
Not you, right?
And not Mr. Beamon's. It's just his perspective, what he knew at the time.
And that's what we've said all the time. I'm not offering him as an expert in the law, but this is the guy's father.
Right.
You would assume that he doesn't have any his interest after just having watched his son get shot.
I would agree that it was an honest statement.
And so the eyewitness, if the eyewitness believes Mason probably within his rights, then that he probably wasn't, right? That's what probably was.
Right.
Probably was, probably wasn't. And neither of you have gone beyond reasonable doubt. You can't. That's not your determination. You don't make this determination.
Correct.
I guess he said he was trained to kill by the military. So Trevor had just gotten through basic. We heard that. So he actually did go through the military. Did you know that?
No.
Okay. But so Mason's correct about that. Right?
That he's a trained killer?
So here's the thing. And we all respect the military, but part of what the military does, because we need it as a country, and we all love the fact that they do, and respect the people, and honor the people who serve. But one of the things the military does do is they train you how to operate weapons of war. Right?
Sure.
They have to. So part of the job is learning how to close quarter combat, learn to operate military weapons of war, military weapons altogether. That's somebody who's going through basic is learning this. In addition to other things, we agree with that.
I wouldn't describe them as trained killers.
Well, what it said is he's trained to kill. He didn't say he trained to kill, he said he was trained to kill. What he's saying is he has specialized training from the military to face more danger. You see what I mean?
Sure.
Okay. And then he talked about the fact that the reason that Trevor assaulted him was because Mason and Mason's girlfriend had called the police because Trevor was off his girlfriend. You knew that from your review.
That's what it says, yes.
That's what it says. And so, Trevor's girlfriend comes to the stand and testifies that she was in fact being beaten by Trevor and assaulted by Trevor. That would be another thing that Mason would have been correct on.
Judge, no questions, speculation.
So Maddie would be a person who could testify Trevor was hitting her mom. Right?
I would say so, yes.
And ultimately, because you talked about your appealing to knowledge, when somebody, so let's go back to the gun. If somebody strikes you in the face while holding a gun, or pointing the gun at you, or displaying or exhibiting a gun, what is that offense?
It's an aggravated assault.
That's an answer.
He didn't answer it last time.
Yes, it was an aggravated assault.
Oh, okay. And then I apologize. I won't ask it again, just so we get aggravated assault. What degree felony?
Um,
And I'm not trying to jump in, it's second degree felony.
so it's a second.
Sometimes you get first. Second degree felony, so that's a major crime.
It is.
Right. Because when you had responded to me before, you go, yeah, it's slapped in the face like that. But if it's the other thing, then that's a second degree felony, that's pretty serious, right?
Correct.
Now, what is it if you don't have a gun at all, but you assault somebody in retaliation for calling the police for you beating your spouse or your wife?
For retaliation.
Yeah, what is that?
I can't recall right now, I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. And I am not trying to like quiz you. I'm trying to illustrate. So when somebody says, you're a witness against me, you call the police and you're a witness against me and assaults them, that's also a felony law, right?
Sure, yes.
Right, so it's called retaliation.
Yeah.
You're retaliating, that's a third degree felony. You're retaliating on account of the fact that the person was a witness against you. If you assaulted, even if you threatened, then that's a third degree felony. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So what he's reported is against Trevor is two felonies, potentially if you took what he said as true. Right?
As far as I know, I don't know how far any of that got into when it comes to investigation, and I do not know how many witnesses or evidence is available to support any of that.
Well, we found all the evidence when Trevor went into his house and threatened the guy and got shot. And then we found out that Trevor said he wanted to get slapped.
Jason said, it's not a question, Jason's question.
Okay. So we did find out after this incident that Trevor went into the guy's house from the dad saying, I mean, whatever he said, it said something to the fact that he wanted to get slapped again, which implies that slap.
Which is a misdemeanor, correct?
Which is a misdemeanor unless you're slapping him because he called the cops on you because you were beating your girlfriend, and then it's a felony.
And again, sir, I know you're asking me a lot about what's there available to support any of those charges.
You remember I came up and objected to this and said you weren't the right witness to use for this office because you were in investigation. Well, but since they did, I understand. But since they entered this with you, a misdemeanor, right? Like misdemeanors, who cares? Is it like that?
Am I okay to answer?
And answers it like that?
Well, no, it's speculation. If you're asking a lot of questions, if this was here, this would be a felony. If that was there, that would be a felony. And you're right, if all that stuff were there, those factors were there, yes, you're right about all those questions. But I do not know what was actually there because I did not investigate those cases. And if you continue to ask me if, well, the answer is always going to be right. Yeah, if those factors were there, yes. And I do not know what factors were actually there for those offenses you mentioned. That's all I want to clarify.
I understand, and I'm not asking you that. I'm not asking you to go off on some tangent. I'm really saying, look, you told the prosecution, that's why we were talking about this with you. You told the prosecution you reviewed the October 2nd assault.
Yes.
And in that review, you reviewed Mason saying he assaulted me because I called the police on him for beating his wife.
Jason has to answer what we found over there as a student.
What you're saying is that you keep saying it's a misdemeanor. I don't know what you're saying too. It doesn't matter. But you keep saying misdemeanor. If you would just believe, like everybody else, or a lot of people would call the police to report something, they don't have to jump through 80 hoops to be believed about what happened, right? But in this particular case, the felonies weren't filed. You would agree with that? Nobody filed or investigated the felonies.
As far as I know, again, I did not conduct those investigations, but I don't believe so.
Yeah, and you agree that if he were taken at his word, they would be felonies.
I do not know that. I can tell you that an investigation, when an investigation gets conducted, you're going to find those factors or you're not. If an investigation wasn't conducted, I do not know what the factors are.
So somebody getting struck, regardless of whether it's a or not, somebody getting struck does create, in any person, does create a perception that the other person is a threat. We agree with that.
Objections made.
Well, okay. Somebody hits you, you're going to be watching out for them so they don't.
People react different. You're going to get different reactions from different people. What a fact, I can't answer to that.
I've been. You seem to be easier to ask the question, the answer. For mine, you can't answer anything. You should say it.
Thanks for believing me. Mr. Mason, you need to calm down.
All right, let's,
You take
take a break.
All right, Missouri.
That's where you were trustee still, right?
I was. We kind of broke it at that point. And I appreciate the board allowance.
Yeah, that's fine.
I put the loose ones in the bag. Offices or just in the closet. So, in the bag, you stick them like that, and once we're done, come back in there.
Detective, one of the things I wanted to clear up, the prosecutor pointed out, it's true. I think when I told you, he said, be careful, he doesn't want to go, and I think I said go back to jail. What the statement actually says was he doesn't want to go to jail. Okay, so.
Okay.
And I know that there's a different connotation to that, so I just wanted to correct it, make sure everybody knew that that wasn't intentional. Your Honor, may I press the witness with an exhibit that's been entered into evidence? We got this box on here. It's 21. It's already been entered in outside of jurisprudence, I believe. So, can you tell me if you know what 21 is? 21. Like just in general, what it is.
In general, it's a ammunition box.
Right, and you know how to open it? And can you tell us what's inside of it?
Looks like 2 boxes of ammunition.
And is that the 5.56?
Yes.
And those
yes.
would be the rounds that would go inside of an AR.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, and we've heard testimony those actually that the AR does have 5.56 rounds.
Okay.
And I guess my point is so this is something, this was also found in Mason's apartment, and it has ammunition for the rifle that he had in the apartment. I mean, a lot of surplus stores in a lot of places sell ammunition boxes like this for people to keep their ammunition, right?
Yes.
That's pretty common. They're pretty common boxes. Wouldn't you agree?
Sure, you can say that.
And so there's nothing particularly special about a box like that, or concerning for somebody who owns an AR.
I guess not.
Do you own an AR?
I do not.
Okay. You're the first one who
Really?
got up here, police officer that have that.
I am not a gun fanatic. I just have what I'm issued. I'm good with that.
Understood. So, I guess along with that, how long you said you've been at SAP?
18 years.
And so in that 18 years, have you ever had to use your
I have.
Do you also know that, that can cause, trauma stress reactions to the person that has to use their weapon in line of duty?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then and at the time that it's happening, there's a huge adrenaline rush that happens as well.
I would say so.
Right, I mean, from the people that you know,
Yeah,
to be able to do that if you have to.
correct.
And part of your training is that you have to expect that you're going to get an adrenaline rush of like how to control that and keep your wits about you as you're operating that environment. You would agree with that?
Yes.
Like in heightened tension, heightened stress, adrenaline rush, and then, but you said absolutely, because you agree that shooting somebody can cause them to go into a traumatic stress reaction.
Not necessarily. Again, everyone's different, right? Every person reacts different. I can tell you from experience, I have investigated officer-involved shootings. Every officer responds differently.
Sure. And that has a lot to do with like who the person is, like their
Right.
chemicals in their body, the personalities that they have, probably their experience. Is this the only time it's ever happened to them, or were they enlisted and went over to Iraq and they were in a different?
You're right. Different factors. Again, it's not easy to say everyone reacts the same. So I can't say that particular reaction will be 100% at each time. Each person reacts different.
Okay, and looking at your, may I retrieve an exhibit to show?
Sure.
Pictures of the door and blood.
I think I put them up there to the right. Are you talking about the EV photo or the one we just published? The one we just published or the EV photo?
Yeah, these. And your Honor, I've retrieved 84, 96, and 85. Man, I've published them. Thank you. So, looking at 84, I think we've had some testimony about it, and you've seen this picture before.
Yes.
And so, what we're looking at is what looks to be blood, and maybe some other bodily matter, fluid or tissue or something, on the inside wall of Mason's apartment.
Okay.
I mean, do you agree with that?
It could be. Sure.
It could be.
It could be.
On here, we have what looks to be blood. You've seen blood, and you've seen these kind of scenes before, and that looks like blood.
Yes.
And on this door, this blood streak here, you would estimate. Can you estimate how far in? It's about halfway on the door. Do you know how wide that door is?
Not from that picture.
Okay. Let's see if I can get a picture. To help. If it does. Let me ask you this, you know how wide a standard door is?
I don't.
Showing you to the 71, which is kind of, you get a bigger idea, picture of the door. Would it be safe to say that, it's definitely several feet wide?
Yes. Yes.
So, probably 3 to 4 feet wide.
Okay.
I mean, a standard door, let's say. Most doors, we know what a door is. It's
Sure.
3 to 4 feet. And as you can see, when this door is open, the door opens into the apartment.
Yes.
And then the picture that I showed you where you said it could be blood, it's on this left side of the wall.
Yes, I believe so.
Then there's some keys hanging out. And we didn't get a whole lot of good, big with this particular scene. So we're having to guess, but I think everybody agrees that it's on the inner part of the wall, on the left side here. And then this strip of blood here is almost halfway to this door. So basically, if you walked into that apartment with the door open, by the time you got to here, you're inside the apartment. By the time you got to where that blood is.
Okay.
You agree with that?
If, sure.
Right. And if the person was shot with the door open, and you have blood here, and you have blood here, those are both, that's blood inside of the apartment.
If what you showed on that picture by the keys is actually blood.
Well, see, this is where I had the question,
Okay,
because you're the lead detective,
okay,
right?
yes.
So you have every ability to order somebody or have CSI or have somebody go and get that blood, get what's on that wall, and take it and get it tested to see if it in fact is blood, right?
I don't think that was tested.
And nobody did it. Now, when I'm trying to talk about it as blood, you're able to say, well, it may not be. But who was responsible for getting that testing done?
I should have done it, had I been aware of that at that time. I can honestly tell you I didn't do it. So yeah, I don't know what that could be.
Sure. And so, because of that, and I appreciate you acknowledging that, but because of that, at this point, that's something that could have been done, could have been tested to see if it's blood, and not only that, could have been tested to see if it's the deceased blood, right, through DNA. That could have happened.
Yes.
So it wouldn't necessarily be fair to Mason to say now, well, we don't really know what it was. We can assume that that's the deceased blood since Mason was not leaving.
Or something completely different. Sure.
But it sure does look a lot like blood, right?
I'll be honest with you, to me, it does not.
Well, let's look at this. Let's look at this. You're on first witness?
Me.
So are you saying Stacy at 96, you say that doesn't look like blood?
No, I'm referring to the picture that's up on the screen.
Okay, but 96 looks to you definitely like blood.
It doesn't look like blood to me.
Okay. If I can, you're on first witness. If I can show you 84. I mean, that's the other thing. We're not, the quality of the pictures is not something that we can control, or really you can control.
It's not.
But you're saying that these red spots in here in what looks like body tissue does not look like blood to you?
To me, it does not.
It does not look like it contains blood at all?
It does not. It could be interpreted that way, sure. But as you mentioned earlier, it wasn't tested, so I can't tell you what that stuff is.
Okay. Does it look like there's, at the time of the picture, does it look like there's fresh drops of whatever this tissue is coming down the wall?
Absolutely. And again, going by my experience, I've had crime scenes where investigators have pointed out what they believe was blood, and it turned out to be ketchup. Again, but you're right. Because it was not tested, I can't tell you that that's actually blood. To me, it does not look like blood.
Okay. Well, you're saying that one. But this one for sure looks like blood.
It looks more like blood, yes.
Okay. And
Because of its thickness and the color, to me, that it could be food, honestly. But I do not know.
I mean, it could be, and, you know, that's, I agree in a vacuum, but you also, right next to this, you have a guy who's been shot a lot of times, and he's down right outside of this, right?
Right.
So in context to that, where you have those things, what look and appear to be, and everybody said looked and appeared to be, who was there at the scene, appeared to be blood, it could be food that has been slung on the wall, but we just had somebody shot right in that area and it's bleeding all over the place, right?
Right.
Okay. So, I think you realize, and is a suggestion that Trevor was inside the house.
Objection, speculation, I believe that's an answer.
I think anybody can answer that question. His blood inside the house is a suggestion that he was inside the house.
Okay, I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Regardless of, I mean, I understand it wasn't tested, but had it been tested, and it was Trevor's blood, and you knew that for 100% certain because you tested,
Yes.
And you would have compared that to the witness statements that you reviewed? That fact?
I would take it into account.
Right. Because we kind of talked about Mr. Beamon's statement, and what he said the day that it happened was that he thought that Trevor had gone past the threshold into the first blood. That is consistent with that statement.
Not necessarily. Testing that substance will tell us what it is. It would not tell us how it got there.
Sure. I mean, I agree, not beyond a reasonable doubt. But, right, but you can't be beyond a reasonable doubt about anything. About if there was no blood at all, people bleed internally, which we've heard, and you know that, right?
Yes.
People can be shot in one place, not have any blood come out at all, and then go to a different place, and then that's where the rest of the blood comes out.
Sure.
Right? So it doesn't tell you beyond a reasonable doubt. All I'm saying is it is an investigative tool, though, to see if the scene is matching.
It is, but it wouldn't tell me that a specific person was actually inside the house. It would just tell me, again, what that substance is. It would not tell me how it got there.
I guess what I'm saying is, I agree, because what you're doing is you're looking at that and saying that. But what I'm saying is, if Mr. Beaman said that Trevor went inside the house and you had the blood, that would corroborate what Mr. Beaman said.
I have to disagree with you, not necessarily, because we don't know, okay, you know, I've been to a crime scene of a suicide when we believe it's a homicide. And we will not determine what it is. They do interesting things that makes us believe certain things, but that's why we need everything, the entire picture put together. Just one thing alone by itself does not tell us or corroborate an entire story.
I agree. I think what I've been doing is I've been adding several things and putting those things together. Statements, witness interviews, plus evidence at the scene, right? But let's go to this door. Because this needs, we want this to be clear, and I think you will clearly say this. You can agree with me 100% that there were no shots fired through this door.
I don't think there are any bullet holes through the door.
Right. And you would agree with me 100% if shots were fired through this door, there would be evidence on the door that shots were fired through the door.
There should be evidence, sure.
Right, because bullets don't bounce off wood, you know, and go through it, right?
Well, some do ricochet.
Sure. But they are 5.56 bullets are going to go through a door like that.
Sure.
Yeah, and so what we can agree to is, and what you do know, is that Mason was not standing behind a closed door with Trevor outside a closed door, and he shot Trevor through the door.
I do not know that.
Well, but you do know for a fact that there's no bullet holes in that door.
I can say that, but I cannot tell you whether that door was closed or open at the time he discharged the rounds. I wasn't there to see that, so I can't tell you that.
I know, but you weren't there to see any of this, and you didn't tell us about it the entire time you testified. What I'm saying is that, and maybe I've asked the question badly, you can say for a fact that the door was not closed and Mason shot through that door. You can say that for a fact.
I can tell you that the door was not shot at, but I can't tell you the precision of the door when the charges were, when the projectiles were discharged.
But you can, okay. But what I'm asking is you can tell that nobody fired any weapon through the door.
Right.
So you can tell that.
Right.
So when I asked you, you can tell that Mason was not standing on one side of the closed door and fired through the door to hit Trevor. You can say that for 100%.
I can say that the door was not hit. I can't tell you and I'm sorry, if I'm understanding your question correctly, I can't say whether that door was completely shut or wide open or slightly open.
Okay. I guess, if I'm not being clear, I'm sorry. I feel I am.
Okay.
But we can do it with figures. side of the door and fired a bullet through that door to hit somebody on the other side?
No.
There we go. I'll pass it.
Yes, Chief. Sorry, may I first evidence? All right, so I just want to start where we ended, just in case there's any confusion. And let me know if I'm misinterpreting. I think, if I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying the door was, is that the difficulty you were having answering that question, whether the door was
Correct.
closed?
Correct.
Okay. But again, we agree whether the door was open like this or open halfway, you don't know the answer to that.
Correct.
But the bullets didn't go through the door.
Right.
All right, perfect, thank you. So I know you may have reviewed a 911 call a long time ago, but if I told you that he was wearing a green sweatshirt, if he says on the 911 call, I'm wearing a green sweatshirt, I'm taking my clothes off, would that corroborate what you see next to the rifle that was collected in this case? The sweatshirt was also collected in this case?
It would.
Okay, and obviously if there was blood or body matter on that, you would note that in your report and investigate that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the sweatshirt that theoretically, if what he says on the 911 call is true, he was wearing at the time before he undressed?
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about moving back into the cross-examination. In order to make an arrest, are you just allowed to arrest anybody, or do you need to have a warrant in most cases?
Brian, we try to have more than just someone giving us their account of what happened.
Okay, so let me clarify a little bit more. If I'm a police officer and I see somebody speeding and allowed to make a traffic stop, that's actually the lowest standard. That's reasonable suspicion, right? The traffic offense has been violated, reasonable suspicion is actually lower than probable cause, right?
Okay. Yes.
And then I make contact with the guy, I smell weed, I search his car, I can arrest him because I've got probable cause that he's committing the offense of possession of marijuana.
Yes.
Okay. So that's something that you see it happen. You see the possession, you see the offense occur, you can make an arrest. But if somebody calls and says, hey, I was assaulted, outside of certain family violence offenses, you're not allowed to make a warrantless arrest, right?
Correct.
And typically, if the person who's accused of committing an offense, again, you can say unfounded, or if you believe it's founded, you can get a warrant, right? You can go to a judge and say, I want to arrest this guy because I have probable cause they committed an assault.
Yes, correct.
Or you could just file a case with the district attorney's office and they could decide, yes, we think he committed assault, and then a warrant would be issued.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Allison's body cam, Detective Kilpatrick's interview. Detective Kilpatrick's interview was on December 22nd, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that case was still actively under investigation, is that correct?
It was.
Okay. So if the defendant, suspect, in a case is deceased, is there any purpose in continuing that investigation?
No.
So had Mr. Beeman not been killed on Christmas Day, that case would have had some conclusion, possibly unfounded, possibly founded, possibly walking a warrant, possibly filing for the district attorney's office to review.
Correct.
Okay, but there was no opportunity of that because he was killed on Christmas Day.
That's right.
Are you familiar with something called a civil standby?
Yes.
What is a civil standby?
When I was back on patrol duties, people often call police officers to stand by while they're either recovering property from their home or other places. Officers stand by to stop any breach of the peace, so someone can get their belongings and no offenses are committed because the officers are there, they get their stuff and they leave.
And was a civil standby requested by Mason Lubitz for Christmas Day?
I don't believe so.
You're not a former military. I know a lot of officers do military service for a period of time and then go into law enforcement. That's not you, correct?
It is not me. I have family members in the military, but I never participated in the military.
So only if you're familiar. Do you know what the difference between Army National Guard versus regular Army is?
Different branches, that's all I know.
I won't ask you more about them. As far as being a trained killer or trained to kill or possessing a weapon of war, trained to use a weapon of war, was Trevor Beeman carrying a weapon or got killed at Mr. Lubitz's doorway?
I don't believe so.
was he carrying any weapon of any sort?
No, not that my investigation showed.
We talked a little bit about the penal code. If you provoke the conflict, are you entitled to claim self-defense?
No.
Can I give Steve 100 still? Yes. 100, we've, I think, read parts of it a couple of times, the whole thing once, parts of it a couple of times. So you've got a lot of questions, and it's like, well, if this happened, it could be this, or it could be that, or it could be this type of offense. But that's, again, if you believe what Mason Lubitz said to be true. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't think that's just a black and white answer. It's not so much just whether you believe the person or not, right? As a police officer, I've been on 18 years, people have lied to me many times. So that's why we don't arrest people just based on a police report. We have to find the probable cause that's needed, the evidence to arrest somebody. Otherwise, everybody would be in jail. A lot of people would be, right?
It's just that he said, or he said in this case, I guess, had you gotten a chance to talk to Mr. Beeman. So, ideally, get ring camera, or surveillance camera, or like an eyewitness statement, something like that would be what you'd want to get to that probable cause.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things I want to talk to you, though, is about his credibility. Did you believe it was credible when Mason Lubitz claimed that in Trevor's own father's words, he needs to die? Did you believe that Jim Beeman thought that his son, Trevor Beeman, needed to die?
Your Honor, I just don't think, I'm sorry, I object to it. It's relevance, and he can't comment on somebody else's credibility.
It's fine, sustain.
Jim, I'll pass the message then.
Just so I can understand, one of the things is, for what he's talking about, provoking difficulty, that's actually it's a pretty extensive legal theory. That have you had any training in the law other than the penal code?
No, sir.
So, because provocation has special meaning in the law, and one of those meanings is that it can't just be any provocation, right? Because it has to be provocation that would cause a reasonable person to be provoked. You agree with that?
I do agree. Yes.
Because, an example I've given is like, if you're in traffic and a guy cuts you off and you go, hey man, watch what you're doing, jerk. I've said something that's mean or that the guy doesn't like, but that doesn't mean I've provoked him to follow me to my house and then come into my home and threaten me or assault me, right? You agree with that?
I do agree. It's one of those, it's not a simple yes or no answer. There's a lot of
Sure.
factors that come
Sure.
with that.
Well, one thing that we do know is that the provocation has to rise to some level that's beyond where even a reasonable person would be provoked to attack another person, right?
Sure.
Right. And so, because otherwise, nobody could ever claim self-defense if they're just like, hey, you're a jerk, and then the guy tries to kill you, and you have to just lay there and be killed. We got to call him a jerk beforehand, right? That doesn't make sense.
Again, there's different levels of provocation and response. Yes.
Sure. Okay. So, I guess the prosecutor said that on this assault report, which I'm sure you're tired of talking about, but on this assault report, it did happen. We know it did happen, but it happened October 4th of 2023, or I'm sorry, 2021, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did I hear it right that a detective didn't call him or follow up with him until December 22nd of 2021?
That's what's recorded.
Okay. So, is that normal to wait almost 3 months to follow up on an assault like that?
It is possible, very likely. We get inundated with cases on a daily basis. There's a number of detectives assigned to the entire city of San Antonio.
Sure.
It can take months, yes.
Okay.
It's not uncommon.
Not uncommon.
No.
But, in those intervening months, there was no contact that was made or attempted to be made, I guess, with Mason or any of the potential witnesses that you could see.
Yeah, not from what I can see.
And did you know or were you aware that Trevor's girlfriend Maddie was present when Trevor struck Mason?
No.
Okay. But had somebody gone and asked her, she could have told you that it's true, that he did strike Mason.
And again, I was not assigned to that investigation. So I can't answer to that specific offense and that specific investigation because I was not assigned to it. So I can't tell you what happened even.
Well, and the other thing that we talked about is, he said, that, you know, I just have to say personal experience. You know, I wouldn't have a lot of the cases I had if you guys refused to work just on somebody saying something. You know what I mean?
Objections, sidebar.
Okay, sustained.
Okay. So are you saying that like in a family violence case, that if the woman says this guy assaulted me, that you won't file it without further corroboration?
Objection, relevance.
He asked.
Yes, sustained.
It is not the case. You agree with me? It is not the case that SAPD's policy is we won't file a case unless there's further corroboration other than what the person has said.
Well, you have given me different scenarios. Which scenario are we talking about now? I mean, we have to have probable cause, evidence, something to back up someone's claim to file a case. I never said we don't file cases.
Right now, I guess what I'm saying is, okay, child molestation, sexual assault, there's no other evidence that happened 3 years ago, all you have is her word. Y'all don't file that case?
Objecting, relevance to my question.
Sustained.
I'll pass.
Anything briefly?
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you, excuse you.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, next witness.
Take on the Officer Brian Allison.
Do I return this to, I'm sorry.
You have a seat.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
So let's say it.
Thank you, Judge. Officer, can you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell your name for the first and last extent of Brian, so if you guys.
Yes, my name is Officer Brian Allison, Bryan Allison,
And how are you employed?
police officer with the San Antonio Police Department.
And how long have you been employed by the San Antonio Police Department?
5 years.
Are you a patrol officer?
Not currently.
What is your current assignment?
Currently assigned to the traffic unit.
Okay, and what does that mean versus a traffic officer? Just different about your duties?
Just work on the highway, crashes, traffic stops, stuff like that.
Okay, gotcha. So like I know there's a traffic investigation for like serious crashes, manslaughter, that type of stuff. Are you affiliated with that unit or how does that work?
No, sir. I'm just affiliated with making sure the highway is safe with traffic stops, crashes, debris in the roadway, just removing. That's my current job.
Gotcha. So you're just kind of, you're close to the scene, you're ready to respond to any situation, any danger on the highways and the roadways in San Antonio?
Yes, sir. Similar to like a DPS highway patrol.
Understood, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. I assume prior to that you were a patrol officer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess I'll get back a little bit. Do you have any prior experience in military or law enforcement to becoming a San Antonio Police Department officer?
Yes, sir. Did 8 years in the U.S. Army, Texas Army National Guard.
Okay. So you're familiar with like what's the difference between like the Army versus the Army National Guard or the tech? You know, I think it's state by state, but can you kind of explain the differences between a member of the Army and a member of the Army National Guard?
Yes. The difference between the Army National Guard is we receive the same training. We can still deploy overseas. We could do any of those things, but we're funded by the state for the most part, and we have state missions like hurricane, emergency response, anything like that.
So that can overlap. Like you could be a National Guardsman and you do your duty, which is you're called up to duty theoretically, but also you owe certain amounts of service, but you can also do a regular job. Is that right?
Correct. It's once a month, typically 2 weeks in the summer. You can go on mission to, like I stated, to humanitarian aid, overseas deployment, anything like that. But you, most of the time, unless you're activated on orders, it's part-time, so you could do that job, you know, part-time on a weekend, still maintaining a normal job, whatever it may be.
And were you in fact the National Guardsman and at San Antonio Police Department officer at the same time for a period of time?
Yes, sir.
What was your MOS?
My MOS was a 12 Bravo combat engineer.
And what is an MOS that you're
MOS, it's basically a designation. It's a code that signifies like what job did you do. It's normally just a code. It varies from branch to branch, but in the Army it's typically 2 numbers followed by a character.
And there's different MOSs for different members of the National Guard.
Appreciate
Yes,
your
sir.
service, but let's go on to
Okay.
that.
So I'll go ahead and move into the specific incident. So what I want to talk about is October 4th of 2021. Were you in the capacity of patrolman on that day?
Yes, sir.
Did you have the opportunity to respond to a call at 1955 Larkspur?
Yes, sir.
And was that in your patrol district at the time?
Yes, sir.
Is that within the city of San Antonio?
Yes, sir.
Is that within Bexar County, Texas?
Yes, sir.
Did you have, what was the reason you were dispatched there?
It was an assault in progress call.
Okay. And you dispatched based on a call. How do you know what you're looking for? Are you patched into the call? Do you read a summary of the call? How do you know what to look for?
So when you're dispatched, there's a few ways you can be notified of information. It can be from the dispatcher telling you on the radio, or you have a computer right here. It'll tell you notes, typically fed from bottom to top, timeline-wise of what's going on. You know, is the suspect still there? How's the status of the victim? Is EMS responding? Anything like that.
And did you in fact respond to that call?
Yes, sir.
And did you contact anybody when you arrived at that apartment complex?
Yes, sir. I contacted the defendant.
And who is the defendant? Do you know his name? Do you recall his name? Would it refresh your recollection if you had a copy of your report in front of you?
Yes, sir.
For identification only, I'm going to mark this as States 101. Commissioner Lubitz, Judge?
Yes.
And please don't read from it, but if you do need to take a moment to refresh your memory, just let me know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you know that while you're testifying about what happened on October 4th, he was not a suspect or a defendant on October 4th. He was the person who called 911, a potential victim in this case. Is that
Correct.
Okay. By the time you arrived, was the suspect in that case at the scene?
No.
Okay. So once you arrive on scene, suspect's not present, what do you do?
I contact the defendant.
Okay. And to be clear, we're saying the defendant, you mean the defendant in this trial right now?
Yes.
What do you do? Like, what's your purpose in contacting? What are you trying to do?
Just trying to, first and foremost, ensure he's okay. On top of that, make sure, basically see if there's anything that meets the elements to any offense that may have occurred. Just get the overall story, try to sort everything out from there.
Okay. And in this type of situation where the suspect is not present, what do you typically do once you get that information from Mr. Lubitz, or from anybody, I guess hypothetically, but in this case in particular, what did you do and why?
So in this instance, I basically compiled all the information. The powers that are invested in me as a police officer, I can only arrest for certain authorities. Once interviewing Mr. Lubitz, I determined that I needed to essentially write a report. However, in the instance reported to me, I did not have any arrest authority at the time.
Okay. And to be clear, you said you determined you needed to write a report. So are there calls for service? And we've talked about that with the jury previously, where a 911 call is made and a call for service is created, where officers will respond and not write a report?
Correct.
Okay. So that's something that once you get there and evaluate the situation, you make the decision, yes, this needs to be recorded in the report, yes, my body-worn camera needs to be saved so that it can be viewed later.
Correct. There's call for service. Every call has a call for service, but not every call has a case number. Case number is generated to write a report.
And in this case, you generated a case number and wrote a report.
Correct.
And were you at the time equipped with the body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
Have you had a chance to review your body-worn camera video?
Yes, sir.
You did that today?
Yes, sir.
With the exception of any alterations and deletions, was the video you watched a true and accurate copy of your body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner, first witness judge. I'm showing you what I've marked as state. Officer, I'm going to present you to State's Exhibit 102. Can you take a look at that and tell me if you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
And what do you recognize that to be?
My initials with badge number.
Okay, and those initials and a badge number indicates that's the same video you reviewed earlier?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. At this time, State.
Correct. Okay.
Commissioner Kovacevic. Officer, obviously, jurors have heard testimony, but basically, when you're responding, you'll activate your body-worn camera and it'll record the previous 30 seconds without audio, and then going forward, you have audio. Is that correct? So, what are we seeing now? It's the start of this video.
This is me driving to the scene. There's no audio due to it being that preemptive 30 seconds before I activate.
I'm going to skip ahead just before you make contact.
Howdy, officer.
What's going on, sir?
A lot. Okay. There's a +1 in there who was a huge monster. Okay. Like a demon from hell monster. Okay. He ties it up. What's going on? him, so I didn't know what to do. I just sat in the chair. He's going, "You're at my house now, fucking." How would you ever want? Because I was going, "So he shoots me in the
They're just
shit."
roommates, or do you?
I don't know if he's on.
Or I mean, I'm sorry, y'all are just neighbors? Y'all
We're
really
just
neighbors
neighbors.
than that?
They have some cool neighbors that actually have all been leaving because of this one guy. He's attached to the hip with the guy here, his name is Howard. And the guy, I mean, I talked to the guy's dad, and he's like, I told him, I think their son's gonna die. He acts like really great, and he said, "Oh, my son's a piece of shit, I hope he gets that." He said, "My son's the biggest piece of shit."
What was your name?
Mason
You want
Lubitz.
to talk down here?
Sure.
Just so we're not right next to their apartment?
He's not.
Well, there was just two people. There was just two people outside.
No, I mean, that's not that. Now it's Howard and Eric. It's Trevor I'm talking about.
Okay. And you just know these guys because they're your neighbors?
That's correct.
Okay.
Those are the
You're fine. However, what's your name?
Mason Lubitz.
How do you spell that?
MasonLubitz.
Your date of birth, Mason.
And really look at it, this was my pocket the entire time. It took me the most respect I've ever had in my entire life.
Okay. Mason, what's your date of birth?
March 30th, 1993. Probably my
What's your phone
fastest
number?
smash in the fucking face. My only phone number is my PIN number. 818-635-3399. That's the cell number.
So, you're talking about mentioning a weapon. I need to know exact detail. When was the weapon shown? And pointed at?
He's got a gun that's legally his, and he's pointed at me several times. And he's a gun that he illegally. I thought it was a gun, maybe until he
How do you know it's illegal?
He told me. He went to sell his legal gun. Asked me this. Oh, I got it right now.
Okay,
So
so
I go, okay.
I need you to tell me. Okay, so when we're talking about when he points the gun at you, what was going on?
He was trying to sell me weed.
Okay. So he's trying to sell you weed, then what happened?
He owed me money, and I just very gently said, I got fucking terrible.
Okay.
Then what came up was him talking about how he's going to be selling drugs regularly out of his apartment. And I said, that's fine with me as long as you don't have a few people coming over. I started a few people came out coming over. And it's crazy here, man.
Okay. Again, I keep asking the same question, but you keep.
I'm sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. I have so much lies right now. I'm not trained on it.
Pointing a weapon.
I'm a dream lies. I don't have training on it.
Okay. You're talking about a weapon being pointed at
He
you.
pointed a shitty, Istanbul
Pistol or rifle?
pistol. No,
What color?
never, silver black.
Silver.
Furniture, black furniture shit. You know, the stainless gun, or nickel plated. It's a shitty Muslim company in Turkey. I don't know. It was a stupid, yes, maybe I said, I don't know.
When did he assault you? When did you get punched?
Oh, that was right there.
Just now? Did he try to gun you then, or no?
No, the other buddy was fucking murdered and shot it. So that's how I ended up killing him.
So, he punches you in the face. What does he say when he punches you in the face? What was going on right then and there to make him punch you in the face?
So he comes out, doesn't even say anything to me, but his friend, he's a Hey, Howard, how's it going? Oh, I'm your law. Where are you going off to? Really? Not going to church? Church say you have to?
Yeah.
He socked me in the face.
Okay, so,
He socked me in the face.
he's,
Well,
All right, I'm going to pause at the hard code timestamp 16:24:56. So I'm going to ask you a couple of things. At several points he mentions a gun was displayed, a gun was pointed, and you very explicitly asked him, did he point at the gun if you've been, and specifically when he hit you, and what did he say?
No.
Okay. So if somebody displays a gun or, is holding a gun and they punch somebody, that's potentially a different type of offense, potentially an aggravated assault, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But if somebody just punches It's Class C up to a Class A, depending on certain circumstances.
Correct.
Okay. Several times, you mentioned to him that, hey, I need you to focus, you keep going off. What was your impression of Mr. Lubitz's demeanor as you were getting a statement from him?
Just kind of, I guess, scatterbrained. He couldn't kind of hone in. I was trying to get specific details in relation to the event itself, and it was just kind of slowly just ease into something else about whatever. So it started making me question maybe anything more going on.
Like more to the story?
More to the story, yeah.
Okay. And when I skipped to it, I skipped, but I know you said there were a couple people that were at the other apartment when you first came in, and so that's why eventually you asked Mr. Lewis to step down so that he's not like, they could be standing near the door, near the window, hearing what he's saying, so at least there's some privacy for him to say, and they can't hear what he's saying, is that correct?
Right, and officer safety also. I didn't want to be between them.
Sure, I mean, with those windows there, theoretically, there could be somebody right next to you couldn't see.
Right.
Obviously, where I just paused it, we see an individual who leaves that apartment and comes down and has a minor exchange with Mr. Lubitz. You didn't have any in-depth interview with that person, did you? You don't know much about that person.
No.
Okay. Did you hear what he said to Mason? Go ahead. Sorry.
He asked where his locks were and doorknobs.
Okay. And at this time, did that mean anything to you? Did you know what he was talking about?
No.
Okay. I'm going to resume play on the video.
One and gone, Howard.
What was going on when you got
I was walking my dog. I was talking to my dog. I was talking to him right there.
just around the corner or what? Okay, then you're walking your dog. How do you make contact with him? What
His friend, his murdering friend, who scares the hell out of me, who was not menacing me today.
Okay.
Was just saying, oh, hey, Mason, he's actually kind of nice to me, ironically. Hey, Mason, how's it going? And he just looks at me and is behind him and just looking at me creepily. I go, I don't know how it's going. Why don't you ask him? And he looks at me creepy, doesn't say anything. He goes, well, I said, ask me, where's mine? He goes, I don't know, but as soon as they're by, I go, well, yes, no, you were threatening me. Like, oh, well, you were in my house, and I said, I'm allowed to do whatever I want. I'm allowed to. I said, no, I'm not your wife. You don't get to beat me.
Okay.
And came over and just started fucking, the peacock shit I wanted to do, head in front of my fucking face.
Okay.
Being
So
like,
I'm going to pause again at 16:25:53. So we've got a little bit more about it. Specifically, what I want to ask about is who does he say is with Trevor at the time that this assault occurred?
His murdering friend.
And I think he called him Sean, or did I mishear that?
I'm not sure, sir.
Okay, maybe I misheard that, or I'm confusing things. And he says that you can't threaten me. I'm not in your house. There was no threat made in the assault. He's talking about maybe threats he says were made previous to the slap.
Correct.
Not like in the parking lot when the threat. He said, I believe if I heard it correctly, he made a comment about meeting his wife, and that's when Trevor became upset and struck him.
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna resume play.
piece of shit trying to get me to hit him so he can shoot me in the side, probably. And I'm not stupid, so I didn't do anything. That's what happened. I didn't do anything.
Okay, I just played for a second. I'm stopping again at 16:26:01. Specifically, that's what I want to talk about is what was the exchange that, just for the record, that just happened on the video in terms of Mason says he's not stupid because he didn't do what he wanted to do. What did he say that he thought Trevor wanted him to do? Sorry, I need to go back and play it again. Sorry, my question was probably confusing. I'll just rewind very quickly and play it again. I'll go back 10 seconds.
His pistol, his gun on him.
Okay, so he seems familiar with the concept of self-defense, at least somewhat?
Correct.
I didn't do anything. And then he socked me in the fucking face. And I still didn't do anything.
Which hand?
Right hand.
His right hand?
His right hand.
Okay. Hit you there. One punch.
Well, the glasses fly off.
Was there one punch? And that's it, then what happens?
The woman who sought refuge in my apartment while he's beating the shit out of her, screaming bloody murder, comes and says she's gonna beat my ass. she hit me, I was just
So I'm trying to piece things.
I'm pausing again at 16:26:48. He's now mentioned his wife. I don't think he puts a name on her, but there's also an additional person he now says is either was there at the time or came up afterwards. Is that correct?
Correct.
And specifically, what does he say he will do to both her and to Trevor if she comes up to him again?
Kill them.
Okay. Both of them, both her and him.
Correct.
Together. Okay.
Okay, I'm walking my dog here, I'm walking,
You're
I'm
on
on
the other side.
you're walking my dog, I'm talking to a person,
Okay.
they come out in a gang, they're awesome. His buddy says to me, how's it going, Mason? Well, it's not going very fucking good, this friend's threatening me. It's not going very good, I will say that. Ask him, he's of course smart ass, little, you know, you guys come up here, he goes, I'm just moving shit after she's fucking screaming, he's beating shit, oh, I'm just moving shit. So the guy's like a level fucking 100 sociopath, psychopath, whatever. The guy can on the fucking drop of a hat, just look you in the face and lie.
Okay. So,
What's up?
what happens to the point to where after you get assaulted, where you guys separated?
There's a lot going on there, and everyone's watching, and I'm going, I'm gonna call the police, and they're going, shit, we probably just fucked up. And they're threatening me, and then he, I believe, threatened my girlfriend. I did not hear, because I was really worried about my dog.
Okay.
I just think, my dog, because my dog, I immediately saw my dog is fucking tripping out after he shot me in the face. My dog is a big fucking dog, man. And, yeah.
So,
I've been feeling afraid, so I
so what happened, like I said, after he assaults you, how do you guys break contact?
They were going out for whatever reason. They were going out to do something. So they went out to do their.
They walked away.
Their car was right there.
And
Yeah.
they went into the car and left?
Yeah, he was in the car. Literally. He was 22.
22, white, black, spectating?
White, fucking little leprechaun piece of shit. But he can fight real good. He showed me videos of him beating the shit out of people. So I scared my size.
What's,
And he's got weapons.
what color hair does he have?
Brown.
Brown hair? You know his
Short
eyes?
haircut. Is that his eyes? I guess a little bit, no, I don't. But he's got a fat fucking record.
Does he have any facial hair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a full beard or?
I'm just going to pause at 16:28:53. Mr. Lubitz has informed you that Trevor has a fat fucking record. Based on your experience as a member of the Army National Guard, can you be a member of the Army National Guard with a fat fucking record?
No.
Let's not trying to make sure that they're not laughing over there in the gallery and whatnot, or move them. Go ahead.
I'll resume play.
What is it right now? Strucky?
Scruff.
But if you run his name, you won't get that car. I think you should. Yeah. If you put like a horn on that car, sometimes you should.
So he's a white male, 22 years old with a facial scruff, his brown hair, short hair. Brown short hair, how tall is he? You say he's 11 now, so he's short, like 5'6".
He was standing on the step there when he sacked me, and over the steps over there, and he was still shorter.
He's like 5.5 feet tall.
I don't know. I don't know.
Is
I
he
could literally just
thin? Is he medium? Hefty or what?
No, he's skinny.
Skinny?
No, he's skinny. He's built, you know, he's not buff.
Okay.
Fuck my glasses up, fuck my face
So
up.
as far as-
I feel that's always bringing people here threatening me.
So you're wanting to press charges?
Oh, yeah. And I'd like to also, can I now add testimony to him beating his wife there? Am I allowed to do that, or is that not?
I have no idea what
I'll say, hey, call me with the fucking stand, I'll tell you everything I saw.
Okay. Just stay here.
I'm pausing at 16:30:18. Just before I pause, it was mentioning, can I add testimony to him beating his wife? And then he kind of gestures at the camera. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that something you see often? People making faces and expressions and talking to your camera instead of you?
No.
Okay. As far as your position at this time, you're like, I don't know anything about that. So, did you know that there's been potentially a prior call for service from this address?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So again, you're just investigating the assault in this case, right?
Correct.
And at no point up to now he said that he punched me because I called 911. In fact, what he said is he punched me because I said, are you still beating your wife? You can't beat me like
can go up there, that's fine, that works for me, Ted, I see you. Just be a few minutes.
I'm gonna pause here and then I'm gonna skip ahead, but at this point you depart, you say you need to go make a phone call, and then you kind of go to your car and fill out some information. What are you doing at this point?
I'm creating an SAPD case number, gathering information, running NCIC, TCIC, NCIC checks, like criminal history checks, whatnot, on Mr. Lubitz, as well as utilizing all the information I do have for the other party. That's pretty much it.
Okay. And so you're putting that into your system so that the process starts, and then obviously you'll write a report that can be referenced. The report you have in front of you, you'll write that later usually, or are you writing that in your car right now?
No, I would, after I turn off my body cam, I complete the scene, typically leave the scene, I would write it then.
I'm going to resume at 16:37:32, which is you walking back to the apartment to contact Mr. Lubitz.
It's never a good invite. You too, man.
I'm pausing at 16:38:11. I have two questions to ask you at this point. You have a pink or orange, you've got a colored piece of paper, like a half sheet of paper in your hand. What is that?
That's a SAPD case card. On there, it would provide my name and badge number, the case number, as well as any follow-up unit. In this case, it would be homicide unit, their phone number in case he needs to contact them for any reason, questions.
So any additional evidence, additional witness information, additional written statements or oral statements would be made by follow-up, and I call somebody and say, this is my reference number.
Correct.
The reason I pause here is, Commissioner First Witness Judge,
Yes.
I'm showing you what I've marked as State's Exhibit number 103. Can you take a look at that and tell me if you recognize it?
Yes, sir, it's this.
Okay, it's just a screenshot of this exact moment in time, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's a fair and accurate depiction of exactly what your body cam shows at this moment?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to tender to defense counsel for the objection and offer State's 103. Yeah, Your Honor.